Welcome to another episode of Planet Possible. We're delighted you're joining us to hear evidence-led discussion about topics that are critical to the way we manage our water, nature and climate. A huge thanks to our sponsors Mackley, MWH Treatment and BMA, and you'll hear a little more about them later. We're grateful for their support in bringing the pod to you. If you're new to Planet Possible, I'm Nikki Roach, an enthusiastic connector of people and ideas and a fellow of CIWEM, the Chartered Institution of Water and Environmental Management. So in this episode, we're bringing you some new interviews and revisiting some of our favourites from the last 12 months to demonstrate how environmental issues are going mainstream and how that could be a real platform for progress on climate, water and nature. We've got brand new interviews with two high-profile TV personalities, adventurer Simon Reeve and architect and TV presenter George Clarke, both of whom I spoke to at the recent Northumbrian Water Innovation Festival in Newcastle. Also, we'll revisit Dr Ros Savage MP speaking with real passion in our episode all about the Climate and Nature Bill. Plus, we've got some of the best bits from Chris Packham's fireside chat with me at the ESS Expo. And Sue Jefferson, co-founder of Circular Moulton and Norton, tells us what inspired her to get her town to fully embrace the circular economy. This is an episode filled with people of profile, purpose and influence who are helping make environmental issues mainstream. We want to amplify their voices to help make progress on the big challenges facing our planet. Let's start by hearing what happened when I spoke to George Clarke and Simon Reeve a few days back at the Northumbrian Water Innovation Festival. I am here with George Clarke, architect and TV presenter for Channel 4. George, you've just given us an inspiring kind of opening speech at the start of the Innovation Festival. Tell me a little bit about what regeneration means to you in this kind of context.
On a very simple level, I think regeneration is about improving the place that you're in. And that can be your workplace, your home place, it could be a park, it could be the street, it could be a bench. And for me to do that in an ecological and sustainable way is really, really important. Where I get a little bit disappointed, and I'm normally the eternal optimist, is that sometimes I look around the built environment and I think we're just not doing enough. Every level, like from pavements, curbs, roads, the materials that we use to build stuff a lot of the time isn't particularly sustainable. We are making steps in the right direction. I think a lot of young people out there are very passionate about the environment, even as much as I am, if not more, and allowing young people to engage in the regeneration of places and genuinely making a difference to those places, not just greenwashing, not just talking about it, not saying, oh, we might do that one day, or even, oh, well, we can't afford to do that now. I hear that all the time. And you think, come on, like, when we talk about the future's like in a minute's time, 5 minutes time, 10 minutes time. And I think sometimes when we say the future, everyone goes, oh, well, 2050, net zero carbon. I hate deadlines, because deadlines, I think, sometimes give us an excuse to not necessarily get on with things as fast as we should do. There's a lot of negativity in the minute, isn't there, where there's a lot of kickback on some green environmental issues, certainly from the right-wing press and some politicians who are going, oh, we can't afford to be green now. Country can't afford it. Well, do you know what? I think the planet can't really afford it at the minute. We need to get on and do it. They'll say, oh, well, let's not do that now. Let's worry about that in 10, 15 years' time. That's ridiculous, that. And I mentioned it in my talk today that, for me, sustainability, even if you just make small changes, can make a big difference. And obviously some big changes are needed from industry and power companies and water companies and energy companies. All of those big organisations can make the big differences. But I think us as individuals and us as communities can make a difference to the places where we live every day. And so regeneration for me can be substantial regeneration on a kind of town or city scale, but it could also be the regeneration of one street or the regeneration of your front garden. And I think if we're doing the big scale stuff and the small scale stuff all at the same time, we'll meet in the middle.
You're about to talk to some young people that are coming into the festival. What are you going to say to them?
My big headline would be live life to the full, because I really believe in that. I think the more you invest in your own life, the more you get back. The return on investment is massive when it comes to your own life, really. I mean, I've worked really, really hard, not because I wanted to be successful. I worked really hard because I just had such a passion for life and such an interest in things. And that passion to gain knowledge. Do you know what? You've just reminded me of something. I'm going to tell you something relatively, what would have been fairly confidential. My granddad's phrase was, and I should have put it on his headstone really, was knowledge is wealth, right? He used to always say to me, knowledge is wealth. But he didn't mean wealth in materialistic or monetary terms. He meant if you gain knowledge, it will give you a wealth of joy in life. It will add so much to your life. And this is from a working class lad who wasn't particularly well educated. He left school very, very, very early to go and work on a farm because he needed to earn for the family. But he always said knowledge is wealth. And me gaining knowledge has added a wealth of happiness to my life. So I think I'll probably try and pass that on to the kids today.
That's beautiful. It strikes me, actually, what you bring is curiosity. And I think if we can inspire people to just stay really curious.
Well, do you know what? It's a really good point, that. I was lucky enough to meet James Dyson many years ago, and I remember he was giving a bit of a talk and I had a chat with him afterwards. And he said that when he recruits young people, he doesn't recruit people who turns up with all the answers. He wants them to turn up and ask the right questions. And if you ask certain questions in the right way, it means you've got a curious mind. So I think you've hit onto something really amazing there, actually. I think curiosity's fascinating because, I don't have all the answers. And I'm still learning. I turned 50 not that long ago. I still feel like I'm in my 20s and early 30s, to be honest with you, because I've got such a passion for life and a passion for architecture and a passion for learning knowledge and all that lot. And I think it keeps you young. I think if you're always learning and you always want to learn and you're always striving to make a difference, then it makes life more enjoyable, and hopefully in my own little way I can make the world a better place. And I don't mean that in a wishy-washy way, but like just kind of in my own little world, can I make a little difference? Can I inspire my kids to live life in a certain way and be green and sustainable and think about the environment? And I think one thing I will say to kids is, stay off social media as much as you possibly can unless it's positive. I only go on social media for positivity. If there's any negativity, I just turn it off. The world can get you down a lot if you let it, because there is a lot of negativity out there. There's a lot of organisations make money out of negativity, and I'm dead against all that. I think I'll just say to the kids today, live life as positively as you can, have a positive mind, have as much fun as you can, and don't worry about your exam grades, because I don't believe in grades.
I think for me, one of the things that really stands out about this festival is it's full of hope.
When people use the word hope, it makes out that things are really bad and that they have hope for the future. And I know hope it's a beautiful word and it's a positive word, but it makes it sound like everything's bad, and if we have hope, it's going to be better tomorrow. I just think make it better today. And I don't mean to be negative about your lovely word of hope, but do you know what I'm getting at? It's like if everyone says, oh, we have hope, you go, oh, well, that must mean things are really bad and I hope it's going to be great in years to come. Well, as I said before, the future's in a minute's time. So I prefer to live in the moment than panic about the future.
Okay, I am here with Simon Reeve, author, broadcaster and adventurer, best job title ever. Simon, you've been at the Innovation Festival today. Anything stuck out to you or really surprised you from what you've seen so far?
Well, I've been shown into some of the tents where people are working on, I think they're called sprints, which is where they gather lots of experts together and they try and fix a specific problem. And they've allowed me to go in and interrupt them and just hear what they're doing, which has been really interesting actually, because I've learnt stuff that I didn't know. And some of them are trying to work on fixing the problem of flooding and groundwater flooding and what happens with our sewage and our sanitation system. And this is the stuff that most members of the public, they don't really think very much about, but this is properly fundamental. If we're going to provide for all the people in the country, we've got to sort out the water and sanitation. And it's lovely to see we've got some boffins and some brilliant minds working in the tents trying to resolve some of the problems.
And you spoke this morning at the opening about the theme of the festival, which is regeneration. What does that mean to you in the context of what we're talking about here, which is all about water and climate and nature? What does regeneration really mean to you, Simon?
Well, I think it means preparing better for the future. It's taking what we've got and improving it. Some of our infrastructure nationally, obviously it needs a little bit of a freshen up, it needs a little bit of regeneration, And sometimes it just needs to be improved. We can improve some of the things we do and how we do them, sort of processes, as it were. So I think that's what regeneration means in this context. And I've seen some incredible regeneration on my travels. Cities that were once very violent places, that were very, very difficult places, they can be and have been transformed in some cases by inspiring leaders who say, come on, we can do better than this, we can sort this out, we can give people better lives, by listening to people and then starting to give them what they want and helping them, and that draws people together. And when people draw together, they build better, stronger communities.
You said, just because we can't do everything doesn't mean we shouldn't do something. And I think that's a really powerful message. For your travels from 130 countries around the world, what's the feeling or the thing that you've seen that you think, gosh, if other people could experience this, it would motivate them to do things maybe differently, make that change?
Oh, goodness. I think the one thing we need to remember, especially at an event like this, is that one person can make a massive difference. One person with a great idea, with a bit of passion, who stands up and who says, we can change this, we can do better than this. It can be one person, it could be a little group, but it is possible. Change is possible. Things can improve. Life is difficult out there, definitely. We're doing terrible things to the planet, absolutely. But we don't have to accept that. We can rail and campaign and innovate and fight against it. And so we don't want people to give up. We don't want people to think that they can't make a difference just because the problems seem overwhelming. Focus on what you can do, focus on what you can change, and crack on with it. Don't delay, don't wait. People put things off for far too long. But you've got an idea, talk about it, shout about it, get it made, get it done.
MWH Treatment is one of the UK's leading water and wastewater process contractors. MWH offers a truly integrated design and build service that's uniquely dedicated to the water industry. With an innovative and future-facing approach, everything MWH does is guided by its purpose to shape a better world. BMA is a next-gen AI decision intelligence software company. Their cloud-based platform, Decisio, redefines how water and energy companies approach their infrastructure planning to make better, faster and more connected critical decisions, simultaneously achieving net zero, resilience and financial sustainability. Back in January of this year, we spoke to Dr. Ros Savage MP about the Climate and Nature Bill, and she spoke with emotion, purpose and passion, and it left a real mark on us. Can you start by telling me what the Climate and Nature Bill is all about, Ros?
The Climate and Nature Bill is sort of what it says on the tin, very much about the relationship between climate and nature. And there's also a people part that I'll talk about in just a moment. So I think a lot of people are aware that a changing climate is having bad impacts on nature. But I think what people are maybe less aware about is that damaging nature is actually affecting the ability of the planet to regulate its own climate. This is actually a two-way street, a two-way relationship between climate and nature. I can't remember the last time I saw a hedgehog, alive or dead. Used to be when I was a child and we put bread out on the back lawn. Within minutes, you would have dozens of starlings squabbling over the crusts. I cannot remember the last time I saw a starling. So it's things like that have happened on my watch in my lifetime that really put the fire in my belly, and why I'm so proud to be bringing this bill and why this bill is so important to me.
So, Ros, if things don't go the way that you hope, and if this private member's bill isn't passed into law, what are the likely implications of that from your perspective?
It won't be the end of the journey, not as far as I'm concerned anyway. Ocean rowers are nothing if not tenacious. The ocean did teach me patience, persistence and resilience. So it was partly my passion for the environment that motivated me to come and stand for Parliament. And although it's not the only thing that I'm concerned about, it is a very strong thread running through my life generally. I will continue no matter what happens on the 24th. Yeah, being realistic, the odds are a bit stacked against us. No matter what happens that day, I will just keep coming back. I will keep putting these issues back on the table. One of the things to come out of presenting this bill is that I now have more of a relationship with ministers in DESNES and in DEFRA, and with NGOs across the country. Most of the big environmental NGOs, if not virtually all of them, are supporting this bill, and the members of the National Trust and the members of the WI. So we've got a huge amount of support, and we will just keep campaigning. I don't know how old this bill will have to be before it actually gets into law, but we do need to close those gaps, the ambition gap and the delivery gap. This is the challenge of our generation. And if we fail at this, then we are not being good ancestors to the generations to come. We have to give this everything. I don't know what more I can say about that. Sorry, I'm getting a bit too emotional now.
I think it's wonderful. You can absolutely hear the passion, and I think that's so important, because it is really important. I offer all of my guests the Planet Possible magic wand. So I'm going to pass it across to you, give it a wave. And if you could make anything possible in this space, then what would it be?
Oh, I love this question. Yeah, I sometimes feel like all my constituents think I was issued with a magic wand when I got elected last July. Sadly not. I think it would be a global outbreak of common sense and remembering, just that deep remembering that the future of the natural world and the future of the human species are inextricably linked. And nature is our greatest source of joy, but also, as you say, potentially our greatest source of fear when we look at the wildfires and the floods as happened in Spain last year, and all of the other very in-our-face clues that something is going awry. I know there's always been natural disasters and extreme weather, but yes, I would wave my magic wand and every human being across the whole planet would just fall in love with nature all over again and stand up and champion nature for the sake of future generations. That's what I would wish for.
Mackley is a civil engineering contractor specialising in water sector infrastructure, coastal projects and river works. Striving for a sustainable future, Mackley helps communities prepare better for climate change, maintain water security and enhance biodiversity. With a proud 98-year history, Mackley continues to skillfully tackle the most challenging and complex projects in water. Towards the end of 2024, we got the chance to speak with Chris Packham in front of a packed audience at the ESS Expo in Birmingham. What followed was as insightful and inspirational as it was challenging. When we think about nature, our climate, the environment, what's giving you the most concern right now?
My daily social media feed at about 6 o'clock every morning when the poodles get fidgety is alive with very concerning data. So I think let's deal with biodiversity first. Most of our principal habitats are in decline. 16% of our species are in danger of extinction, and they continue to chart catastrophic declines in particular guilds of species. And we lump those together in very broad categories such as seabirds or farmland birds, and we use those as indicators. And it's very clear that the UK is in parlous and serious decline. So whilst we stand in car parks as ornithologists and we love the fact that we've reintroduced ospreys and white-tailed eagles to the south of England, and they now fly above little egrets that certainly weren't there when I had my first pair of binoculars, the wider picture is pretty serious. We see, again, significant declines in insects, 25% decline in large flying insects over the last 20 years, figures which are replicated in Europe, in Germany and France, and of course the impact of that is significant when it comes to other insects and everything that eats them, birds and bats and so on and so forth. So yeah, we're in deep, deep trouble. It causes me no end of guilt. I've been doing everything within my power, but not enough, to try and address those declines. And so whilst we've been charting them, we have been coming up with a range of abilities to repair, restore, reinstate, reintroduce, but we haven't rolled them out broadly enough and rapidly enough, and we've shied away from dealing with the bigger issues, which brings us to bigger issues than the UK's biodiversity, and that is global biodiversity loss. We've lost 69% of the world's wildlife since 1970. And then we've got climate breakdown and the effects of that we're seeing through weather influenced by the breakdown in our climate is becoming ever more severe, and there can't be a single one of us that isn't aware of the flooding that's been taking place in Central Europe this year, the extraordinary high sea temperatures, the threat to the breakdown of the AMOC current, and who's going on holiday to Greece when it's on fire. So, it's beginning to come home, the fact that it's not something that's a forthcoming risk, it's a contemporary reality. And of course, the key thing that gets lost in many of the conversations is that biodiversity loss, climate breakdown, so many of the other factors are all intrinsically intertwined. They're not a separate thing. And I think that sometimes that can mean that people perceive them as an existential problem, and they don't look into them to see the opportunities that they provide. And there are opportunities to make positive moves, but I think people are terrified by the scale of the problem, and that can sometimes put them off.
So we're called Planet Possible. We are always thinking about the possibilities and the positivity, really. So I'm going to hand you, as is my gift, the reins to the world, right? So you're in charge of the entire world for a few minutes. Internationally, if you could do one thing, make one thing happen, what would you do?
I'd say to everyone living on that world that you are empowered to make a difference for its future. Don't think that it's beyond your scope. People say, I'm just a drop in the ocean. And I say, but what's an ocean but a multitude of drops? See what you can do and do it now. Because this is a time of crisis, and if we are fortunate enough to grow old and die slowly, there could be a point in our future where some younger person comes up and taps us on the knee and says, what did you do when you really had to make a difference? And if you can't look down at that person, whose world will be very different than ours was when we were kids and is now, then frankly, I don't want that on my conscience. So I think we must all look for opportunities within our lives to make those changes. Now, they don't all arise at the same time, so we can't be impatient with people. I'm plant-based. I wouldn't sit here and tell everyone to stop eating meat. But what I would say to them is, why don't you think about eating less of it? Why don't you explore that, if you're into food, the plant-based menu? Why don't you think about the wider ramifications in terms of animal welfare, impact on biodiversity, emissions, and so on and so forth? And when it's appropriate for you, not when I tell you, because I won't, but when it's appropriate for you, take that step. And if there's one thing I can leave you with, because I think that we all should try and do something, if not every day, but when that opportunity arises, what is the single greatest thing that any one of us here could do today to lower our carbon footprint? And there are two things which stand high above all of the others, and they don't involve paint, glue, powder, or sitting in the road. The first thing is, don't have children. It may be too late for that. Okay, so let's move on to the second thing, more realistic. I mean, I throw that out there as a form of contraception. If you haven't had children, then maybe just have the one. But I mean, I don't want to get into that, but it is the single biggest thing. Second single biggest thing, right, where you can do more than just stop oil, you can do more than any of that, right, is change where your money is. If you change your bank to an ethical bank, your pension, any other investments you've got, and you go for those people who are not investing in fossil fuels, they're not investing in weapons, and they're not investing in poverty, you will have that is the single biggest difference you can make. Bigger than stopping flying, bigger than stopping eating meat. It's the simple thing, isn't it? If you added up how much all of us here had in our bank accounts, it would be a significant block of money. And if we imagine we all barked with Barclays here, barkingly barked with Barclays here, right? Then basically, if we all just pulled out that day, that would be a blip on their computer, and they'd think, oh, something's happened. Economic protest is the most powerful tool that we've got. And we can do it passively on a phone app in minutes. No risk of arrest, no risk of becoming a social pariah, no risk of the Daily Mail calling you an eco-zealot. Come on, just change your bank account, change your pension, move that money to somewhere where it's doing good, not, I was about to swear, messing up our planet. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Chris. In March of this year, we made an episode all about the circular economy, and we were blown away by the example and progress of Sue Jefferson, co-founder of Circular Malton and Norton, whose mission is to create the first circular economy market town in the UK.
I think what's key if we're going to make the circular economy work is that there's bottom-up engagement, behaviour change and real buy-in to what we're looking to do. So we are effectively pioneering that changing of attitudes and behaviour change in a nudge way, because my hypothesis was the majority of us want to do something about climate change, but life gets in the way. There's so many barriers and we don't acknowledge them. Instead, we just preach at people. What we're looking to do is make the circular economy fun, cool. In fact, we talk about making it fun to make a difference.
I mean, I love that. I'm all for it. So in practical terms, what kind of stuff are you doing to make it fun and to nudge people into the right kind of behaviours?
I think a very unique approach, which is why we're kind of a showcase for lots of other areas. The idea is if we put in place town-wide initiatives that everybody can get involved in, whatever the scale, then we do the heavy lifting and people get involved. And it is linked with behaviour change. So there's a change management strategy behind it, which is my background. So to give you an example, and actually it came as an idea from a Yorkshire water person. Malton's known as being Yorkshire's food capital. So what if we took the food waste and built a community anaerobic digester on the edge of town, put the food waste through that and turned it into renewable energy for the local people? And I thought it was quite a controversial idea, but it would get people talking. Well, 3 years on, we've not only got a plot of land, we've got planning permission secured, and we did it with 0 objections, which was a first in the AD industry. So that just shows you the power of engaging stakeholders and empowering them where they feel they can make a difference.
I mean, that's extraordinary. So I'm keen to, particularly because it's bioresources in some respects, isn't it? Let's dig into it a bit more. So you're going to arrange the collection of food waste locally and then it's digested locally, and then what's happening with the power? Tell me more. I'm fascinated, Sue.
We did a feasibility study, and I say we've got all these fantastic world experts but sitting on our doorstep in York, and we're going to take the commercial food waste. So we've got some food manufacturers nearby, but we will have a little caddy, electric caddy that goes around the town and collects from the hotel, the butchers, the school as well. It just goes probably a mile to the edge of town on a business park, and then obviously converted into heat and power, and then looking at a private network which will provide that power and heat not just to Eden Camp Museum, which is a fantastic tourist attraction, local businesses on the site, but actually looking to attract new food producers into the town, onto the site, where suddenly they've got a circular economy that they can showcase with their end users and their customers. A lot of food companies will already be sending their waste to AD, but hardly anyone can have that complete circular picture to look at, not just for their business benefits, but then we can have school children coming around and seeing how it works. And I think an important part, it will reconnect them with where food comes from and also where waste goes. And I think ultimately we'll see a reduction of waste as it's suddenly seen to be more valuable.
What kind of reactions have you had from local residents? The fact that you've said 0 objections means people are obviously engaged enough to get it and to want to know what's happening. So tell me what the local community have said about all of this.
Well, like me, they'd never heard of a circular economy, and I explained it as I've explained it to you. And when they heard about the concept, we researched them independently, and almost 9 out of 10 of the respondents thought it was a great idea. And their feedback exactly mirrored what we thought was the challenge. They said, often I feel I can't make a difference. It's good to know that we can do things without changing my life overnight. They think it'll appeal to children. So that was one element, was just make it easy to understand and the concept. The other element is really go up front and acknowledge what the barriers and what the concerns might be. So AD, as you know, it has concerns around smell, around noise. It was actually talk about that up front and say, look, ADs can have this problem. This is how we're going to mitigate against it. A powerful one is, and community-led, is I say, look, I live in the town, so if we have issues, they all know where to find me. But also talking to the AD experts, say, how do we avoid smell? How do we keep noise down? And it can be done if that's important. So, it's designed properly, it's built properly, it's then operated properly. And all of that, I think, is what makes a community-led initiative so powerful. and it's something that could be replicable right across the UK.
As ever, time's flown by, and here we are at the end of this episode of Planet Possible. Thanks for joining us. I really hope that you found this look back insightful and it's given you something to reflect on in your world. If you want to be the first to hear about new episodes, you'll see a link to subscribe to our newsletter in the show notes. And if you don't already, then you can also subscribe to Planet Possible on your podcast app and we'll magically appear in your feed. We've got more fantastic guests and topics lined up for the rest of this year, so I really hope you'll join us for those. And all that leaves me to say is a huge thank you to our sponsors, Mackley, MWH Treatment and BMA, and to my excellent guests across the course of the last 12 months. That's it, everyone. Stay curious, stay connected, and we'll see you next time.